Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Championship Showcase, Secrets for Success, from the playing field of competition to the field of life. We are speaking with inspirational sports leaders, former athletes, coaches, administrators, sports psychologists, and related professionals who are sharing their life strategies and empowering messages of hope and purpose to support those athletes that are seeking to make a successful transition from the playing field of competition to the field of life. My name is Dominic Militello, and we're so glad you could join us today. We have another power-packed show for you, so let's jump right in. Today we are speaking with the amazing Annette Lynch. From the Olympic stage of beach volleyball to the corporate and conference stages on 3 continents, Annette Lynch is a game changer. Her mission is to help athletes, business, and community leaders be game changers themselves, arming them with the confidence, skills, and solutions to lead and succeed. Her self-motivation, drive, and curiosity found a way to not only realize 25 years of playing for her home country, Australia, in the 2000 Olympics in Sydney, but also to forge a new career beyond sport. The game change was not easy, however. A fierce competitor on the court, and even with a university degree in physiotherapy, she was not only prepared for retirement, she was not fully prepared for retirement. She retired 3 times over 6 years before she took charge to change her game and change her life. Annette became a certified master results coach, neuro-linguistics programming practitioner, and trainer, and went on to write a book about her experience and studies in Success Beyond Sport, How to Retire from Sport and Keep Winning. Her 8-step program provides the foundation to create the success in business and life. Previously a trainer and workshop leader for several local and international organizations, Annette puts the spotlight on her message, delivering substance that inspires action and change. She has spoken to audiences in many countries that have included the Institute for Athletes in Retirement and Transition Conference, the Pro Athlete Business Group Conference, the Roto-Rooters Franchise Association, and the Australian Drilling Safety Conference. In recent years, Annette has mentored professional athletes preparing for retirement, sharing her passion, her mindset, and her techniques for lifelong achievement. Living in Maui, Hawaii with her husband, dog, and 2 cats, Annette is currently changing her own game with a position in management with a local company while continuing to pursue her own ventures and dreams. We're so excited to hear what Annette Lynch has to share with us today. Annette, welcome to the Championship Showcase.
Thank you so much, Dominic. Thank you for that introduction, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I really appreciate you putting together this telesummit.
Well, we appreciate your time, and just to provide some context for your powerful message today, will you share a little bit about your upbringing and background?
Yes, well, probably from my accent you can tell I'm not local, I'm not Hawaiian. I am from Australia, and growing up, I always had a little bit of ambition inside of me, and from an early age, when I was 10, actually, I dreamt of going to the Olympics, and the inspiration for that was that I was a gymnast at the time, and Nadi Comaneci was the darling of the 1976 Olympics, and pretty much inspired me to chase that dream. It didn't actually happen with gymnastics. I hurt my back at an early time in my career, and my career was over. You know, I was 15, 16 years old, and my career was over. I was devastated. But something inside me fueled me to think, well, how else can I go to the Olympics? And the first answer for that was to go to university and study physiotherapy, because physiotherapists go to the Olympic Games. I thought, any which way, I'll go to the Olympic Games, even if I'm there on the support team. In the meantime, I'd started playing volleyball. I started playing indoor volleyball at high school, and just took that one step at a time, just enjoying it and wanting to be the best I could be. And I went from a school team to a regional team to a state team, and this is in Queensland, Australia. And then eventually made my way to the Australian team. And then beach volleyball started in the late 80s in Australia, late 80s, early 90s. And in 92, 93, beach volleyball was announced as an Olympic sport. And it really was the first time this fire came back inside me, this desire to chase this Olympic dream. And it felt very realistic with volleyball. I was one of the top players in the country, and I decided to focus fully on beach volleyball instead of indoor volleyball. and was going for 96. I unfortunately, I was actually number 8 at the end of 94, ranked 8th in the world, so I'm on track. But my partner had other ideas. She didn't want to just go to the Olympics. She wanted to win a medal. So she dropped me, and sort of became a bit of a cycle in my life that I was, going on track, and then a partner would drop me, something would happen, and I'd have to pick myself up again and go for it. So I failed getting to 96, and just kept pushing and made it to the 2000 Olympics. That's sort of the nutshell story. And so I am a 2000 Olympian, made it there with beach volleyball, representing Australia in my home country in Sydney. And then as you mentioned in the introduction, I retired 3 times. I first retired after Olympics thinking, yeah, I'm ready, I'm looking forward to it. But it just didn't turn out the way I thought it would be. And I'm sure we'll get into this a little bit later on, but pretty much it took me a while to get to a point where I was ready to transition to what it was I really wanted to do.
Excellent, excellent. And it's funny you mentioned your career being over as a gymnast at the age of 15. That's pretty interesting, right?
Well, and that's what it is as an athlete. You get into it at a very early age, and I know for probably a lot of athletes that are listening to this, their careers have been curtailed. They may have aspirations to have gone to that higher level, and then suddenly injuries knock you out, and it doesn't take much. It's not like a life-ending injury. It can just be minor, but you can't be competitive. It's and the back is a little bit of a major thing. But fortunately, with my physiotherapy background, I was able to maintain my back and still be able to play professional sport.
Tremendous, tremendous stuff. You talked about the fire and desire to realize your dream. Where did that fire and desire come from?
Good question. It was just something inside me. I didn't see it. It's not inherited from the family. There was nothing fueled there. I had very supportive parents. They supported my ambition and desire. When I was young, I actually wanted to be a ballerina. That's sort of what got me into gymnastics. So I started going to ballet classes, and the teacher suggested, I guess because I was more athletic than balletic, that I tried gymnastics. And I still had a bit of the grace from ballet that was my savior in gymnastics. But at school, I found myself succeeding in athletics. I was a sprinter and that. And I guess, whether it was just because I was successful and that, I wanted more of that. With the ballet, I guess I like to perform. I love to be out there and to use my body to do that. I guess, because I had that ability, I wanted to do it at the best level I could.
It's interesting. As a freshman in high school, I was playing on a varsity soccer tournament, and after that tournament, I had some success, and I felt like, wow, I have a shot at really doing something in sport. When did you realize that you could really take your athletic ability to the next and even the highest level?
I don't know if I ever realized it. I guess I never realized that I couldn't. That's probably the best way to, it was just always like, hey, what can I do with it? With gymnastics, it was like, okay, I had a dream. I was getting results, and it was feasible that if I kept going. But also, and this is something I realized a lot later, that at some level I realized there was a ceiling to my achievement. I know I aspired to be great with my gymnastics, but I never pictured myself winning a medal. That I was representing my state, but I never pictured myself winning a medal, like even in Australia. And I remember a teammate winning a medal, and it's like, oh, is that possible? Yeah, is it possible to go that same level? So I see that little ceiling on what I thought was possible holding me back. It's interesting. And then with volleyball, it was. I had a interesting I never wrote down goals or anything, and it wasn't until I made my first Australian team, which was a youth team, I had a coach, and he asked me, what my goals were, had I written them down, and he did a lot of work with us. He was a lot of work based on John Wooden, the famous UCLA basketball coach, and taught us a lot about character and all those things, but he also taught us a lot about goal setting. And I started to write down goals, which was to be on the national team, to be a captain of the national team. And I achieved those goals. So there was a bit of inspiration there.
Well, tremendous. And I was going to ask you about mentors and coaches. Who else was in your corner as a coach or mentor that helped build your esteem and your confidence to keep moving forward?
A lot of it was really self-fueled. A big challenge later in my career, once I started going for the Olympic level with beach volleyball from 93 to 2000, I didn't feel like there were a lot of coaches in my, I pretty much had to seek coaches out to coach me, particularly because players were deciding they want to play with somebody else to aim higher with their results at the Olympics. And even at a point with the Australian program, we had a program where teams were put together, and it seemed like the coaches were never really supporting me as much, and that's how I saw it. And they were looking at my partners, who could they play with? Who could they play? I pick up a new partner, and it was like, she'd be really good with this partner. And it didn't feel like anybody had my back, and I just really had to push myself. And with my eventual partner, we played from 98 to 2000. We had to seek out our own coaches to support us. And in 2002, when I made a comeback back onto the world tour, I actually had a coach that really supported me, believe me. His name's Steve Anderson, and he actually coached the gold medalists in 2000, Kerry Pottas and Natalie Cook. And it made such a big difference to my results. To have someone in your corner and believe in you and think, I was 36 at the time, and that I could still learn new skills. And even when I retired at the end of that year, he said, there's still more in you. So my advice from that is it's great. It's fantastic having someone in your court, supporting you, believing you. You go to bigger levels, but at some level you've got to believe in yourself and back yourself.
Well, it sounds like that's the theme for your story for the most part, is that it came from within and you were self-made and had that desire from within. What was it like to represent your country in the Olympic Games?
Oh, just amazing. And to do it in front of your home crowd. I mean, beach volleyball was held on Bondi Beach, and it was the venue to be at. There was such an amazing atmosphere. If you've ever watched beach volleyball on the TV at the Olympics, it always is an atmosphere. And having 10,000 people, pretty much the majority of them rooting for you, is pretty amazing. Going into a stadium with the opening ceremony packed with 100,000 people, and largely Australian again, and being the host country, it was everything that I could imagine and more. For 3 days, that was the length of my Olympic experience, because after day 3 I was out. And then there was the big tumble and fall. It's like, that's it.
Well, I was going to ask you, Annette, do you think achieving such a high level where billions of people are watching you compete on television and in live person, is it harder, do you think, or is it easier to transition with such notoriety?
No, I don't really think that's a factor, because it was really more about achieving a goal, and then that's it. It's sort of the end of that journey. And I don't know if I had the notoriety that maybe other athletes have. I had pictures in the paper and that kind of thing, but I definitely wasn't a household name. Back then I competed as Annette Stolen, quite a lengthy name, which was not the most memorable name. And I think it's such a high. There's so many factors involved. You've achieved your goal. You are in front of all these people that are fueling that, and then going from that to, okay, that's it. I guess that does aggravate or really emphasize the difference.
Right. What were some of the lessons that you learned through competition that may have helped you through your transition?
Yes. It's and I have had a lot of this more recently. It's like, you do whatever it takes. An athlete will do what it takes to succeed, to achieve the goal, and to keep going. There's this sort of perseverance, persistence. I know that's perseverance is the backbone of my story, of just keep going for it, and being able to just pick yourself up again and again to keep chasing that dream. And I think that's part of it. That definitely helps one to get through the transition. There's definitely characteristics of an athlete that can also hinder them in the transition. Those same characteristics can sometimes get in the way of being able to step back and to just be for a time being, and let things evolve, and getting clear on what you want. Because sometimes, I know with my beach volleyball career, I was so focused on, I've got to get to the Olympics, and there came a point where I thought, am I just going for it for the sake of going for it? Is this really what I want? And I really contemplated quitting. This was around 97, 98. And, but actually being able to stop and think about it helped me to realign myself and say, yes, this is what I want. This is how I'm going to do it. And it got me back on track.
Yes, and I think many athletes experience that same thing. I know I did playing professional athletics, professional soccer. I got to a point where I was like, why am I here and what am I doing? And then thought came to me that I was born to do this. And so I said, oh, okay, if I was born to do this, how do I know I'm supposed to be here right now? And the thought came back to me, well, you're here right now. Well, if I'm here right now and I was born to do this, then just go out and have a great experience. Did you ever experience anything like that?
Probably more in later life, I love that thought process, and I take that in a lot more now that I've with my studies into the psychology of it and the unconscious side of it. It helps me to sit back and be a bit more of a human being instead of a human doing, and absorb what is happening and to make the most of it versus just trying to push and push and push. Right.
Well, you mentioned you had retired 3 times. Take us through your thoughts when you realized that maybe the first time that you might need to look at something else other than playing competitive athletics.
Yeah, well, I was 34 at the time, so it was, and I'd reached my goal of the 2000 Olympics, and so it seemed like a no-brainer. Now's the time to retire. Now's the time to have the other things in life. And for me, the biggest thing was to have time and to have a relationship. I had been married to volleyball for so long, and I hadn't really succeeded so well in relationships, so that was a high priority for me. And I really wanted a different career. I had the physiotherapy degree, but I wasn't passionate about that. So I wanted to get into sports media and sports marketing. But I didn't really ferociously pursue them with getting the right credentials. I did a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But again, holding me back was this sort of limiting belief that I didn't have the credentials. I didn't have the profile, the sporting profile. Beach volleyball wasn't the high-profile sport, and I definitely wasn't a high-profile athlete. So I really stopped myself from pushing as hard in that direction. So I fell back into physiotherapy, and I fell back into playing volleyball because that was what I knew. That was what I felt comfortable. That's where I could still play. I could still get results. I actually resisted going back on the world tour. One gal was asking me to play. She needed a partner, and I'm like, no, I'm not going back. And then this other girl needed someone, and her partner was out with injury, and I was like, okay, I guess it's time. And
right.
And it was good because there was something to finish up, and I had one of my best years on the world tour. After the end of that, it was like, no, it's time to finish. I'm tired, and time to focus on other things. And I guess it just didn't. It's with sport. It's when it's something you've done for so long, you know what to do. You apply yourself, you train, you do this, then it's like a logical ABC. And in finding a new career, I didn't feel the logical steps to do that, or I just didn't get the fulfillment from it because I was in physiotherapy, and and it just wasn't as fulfilling to me as sport was.
Right. Well, and you mentioned limiting beliefs. How important are beliefs, not just in well, more importantly, not in athletics, but in transitioning into something else?
Well, it's sort of the crux of what my program is with Success Beyond Sport, is getting in touch with what you believe about yourself, believe about life, and that along with your identity. So belief is, do you believe in yourself outside of sport? Because you have this, your self-belief in sport is what created your success. You think you're unbeatable, then you are. But if you go out and think, well, I can't do this, I can't do that, just write down all the excuses you have for not doing something, then that is just holding you back. Even if you're sort of thinking, oh, well, I'm going to do it, but if you're pushing through it, but at the back of your mind you still don't believe it, then it's a real push-pull kind of situation. And unfortunately, those limiting beliefs, what you believe, tends to hold strong.
Right. And for you, how were you able to rewrite your beliefs, not having the confidence outside the sport, into what you did initially after sport, and then what you're doing now?
It was really going to some seminars, going into some personal development and looking at myself and what I did believe. And it was my training with the neuro-linguistic programming. Neuro-linguistic programming is really what your mind is creating in your life. What you think is what you create in your life, and being able to change that. It's really by first writing down what is it you believe. You have to know what it is and be aware of it before you can change it. And sometimes just actually writing it down, you can also that's ridiculous. Sometimes right. Sometimes the belief is so deep rooted, and you need to go deeper into it, and that includes some hypnosis. You can do self-hypnosis, or you can work with other people. And it's not deep hypnosis. It's not getting you to run around like a chicken or anything. But it's just going into a trance-like state so that you're able to let go of the conscious thoughts that are sometimes get in the way, and to allow you to tap into what your unconscious is thinking, because your unconscious mind is 95% of your thinking, or 92 to 95. And so tapping into that and being able to just make some adjustments and affirming a new belief, and that's the way some other people do, is that they just write down and bombard themselves with affirmations, with just saying, well, this is what I choose to believe now, and they just, go repeat it until it becomes what they believe.
Is that what is meant by when we hear the phrase "go within" or "go without"?
Yes. Yes, I don't refer to that term a lot, but I have heard it. But it is it's just tapping into that power of our unconscious mind. And some people think, well, I'm not reaching my goal, not getting what I want, and I'm thinking positively, but at some level they're thinking negatively and creating these the negative aspects that go on in their life.
Right. You're listening to the Championship Showcase, Secrets for Success from the Playing Field of Competition to the Field of Life. We're speaking with the amazing Annette Lynch. Annette, how important is it to have that support team around you, especially as you're transitioning into something new?
It is important, and I think a lot of, and what I've seen in my work since, is that a lot of athletes shut themselves off and think, well, I can do this on my own, or I have to do it on my own, or I'm the only person struggling here. And by reaching out and getting support, an athlete's success is based on a team. Even in an individual sport, you've got a team that is supporting you. You have a coach that is helping you, guiding you to create that success. Why does it need to be any different in life? Having that support and having a sounding board, even if it's a friend, if it's a spouse, or it's a formal relationship with a coach, being able to work through things, talking through them, help you to get a different perspective.
Right, exactly. I think it's really important as well to have that, because, like you said, as athletes we have supporters around us, and then we get into something new and we think we can do it on our own, and when we can't, we don't really have anybody to turn to. A question for you, Annette, as far as writing your book, why did you feel it was important to, one, I have two questions for you. One, why was it important for you to go and get your neurolinguistics certification and your coaching certification, and what inspired you to write your book?
Okay, so first I went to a seminar and started having these breakthroughs myself in how I was thinking and how I was seeing life. It was really at this one seminar that I realized my life was in front of me, not behind me. As at this point in 2006, I was 40, and I was still looking back and thinking, I've done it, I've achieved my goal, and that's it, and I'm just going to plod along for the rest of my life. And suddenly I was awakened and thought, oh, there's more to achieve in my life. There's more to do. I can still climb even higher. And of course, being a Capricorn, I'm a mountain goat. I've got to climb. and I saw the speaker on stage, and I just was inspired. I thought, that's what I want to do. I want to be out there inspiring other people, and the way to do that was to sign up for all his courses. And so they included becoming a master results coach, which included the NLP, the neuro-linguistic programming, and also presentation skills, and also a little bit of other work on my own mindset. And I also aspired to be part of their team, and a year later I was on the team, and then that evolved into becoming a trainer for that organization. So I just started achieving goals at a higher level, at a faster level, and I guess it was just being inspired, being in that environment, that propelled me to just focus on what it was I really wanted in my life and making that happen. And
nice.
Then the book came out of that. As you sort of go into this personal development field, you think, how does it apply to your life? And I was initially I was applying it to athletes and athlete performance, and then eventually I realized, well, this has really helped me with my transition. And I started looking out there and realized, well, other people are going through this problem of transition, and there's not a lot out there to help them. And so I just started writing down the steps of, well, what helped me to really finally move forward, and jotted them down, and then started writing my story with it. I already had been starting to write my story, but it had no purpose. And once I had a purpose for the book and an audience, it really wrote itself.
Well, that's great. And I want to talk about your 8-step program in just a second, but I want to go back out of chronological order here for a second, and I want to ask you, what led you to start seeking? You said you went to this conference and it really inspired you. What was happening right before that where you thought you had, you were looking for something else? What was going on in your life where you felt like, man, I need to go, I'm in search of something, I'm not sure what it was, let me go to this conference, oh, now it sparked something. Does that make sense? Yeah,
there were a couple of things, and great question. You're making me think. Part of it was I was in a relationship that really wasn't working for me. Part of it was, is this as good as it gets for me? And the second part was I was working in corporate health, which was a combination of my physiotherapy degree and also my healthy lifestyle background, and also me getting to help other people. Rather than actually being hands-on with my physiotherapy, I was getting out there and educating people. I'd always had a passion to help people help themselves be better. And so I was doing that, but I sort of had hit a ceiling again. I'd been chasing a pay rise and all these things, and I just didn't feel satisfied with a lot of things in my life. And, an opportunity came. Someone invited me to one seminar first, and then that seminar was a fire walking seminar. So I walked on fire and got fired up, basically. And there that sort of started the awakening. And then I met another gal there, and she said she had tickets to this other seminar. And so it was just a gradual process. And so at that seminar, it wasn't so much that I was feeling broken or anything, but it was just like, hey, is there something more? It's curiosity that brought me there. And then when I was there, it really opened me up to see well, yeah, I wasn't living my life to its potential. I wasn't really satisfied, and that it was time to get really clear on what I really was.
Sure, and it's funny because the outside world, those non-athletes, they would think you're kind of crazy because to play and participate in the Olympic Games, I think most people would say, you know what, I've lived a full life. And here you are, and like most of us athletes that achieve a high level, as soon as we're done with that part of our life, we don't just ride off into the sunset and do that. There is more to life, and that's exactly what you're talking about here. Will you share with us how your 8-step program provides the foundation to create the success in business and life?
I will, yes. So it really is changing your mindset about yourself. It's the first step is really just stopping, taking stock, and seeing what your life is like right now. You've got to know where you're at to know where you want to go, and it's getting clear on where you are with your thinking and how that is creating, looking to see what excuses are keeping you where you're at. Step 2 is then getting clear on what it is you want, writing down goals and being really clear, and I have a process for that to write it down really specifically and clearly. Step 3 is then looking at those beliefs, looking at what is, do you believe in those goals, for one? Do you believe in your ability to reach those goals? What do you believe around money? What do you believe about love, etc.? Step 4 is what I call the rules of the game, and that's one's values, and it's integrally linked to beliefs. It's what's important to you. Our values really are a background to what we do. We don't do anything that's against our values, and also we focus on what's our number one values. And as an athlete, we're focused on our values of being committed to sport, of our fitness endeavors, and once you're not an athlete, your values have to change a little bit to align to your new direction, to your goals. So we look at that. Step 5 is looking at your team. We've talked about the importance of support. Who's on your team to drive you forward? Step 6. Sorry, I haven't got my notes in front of me. So, sorry. Step 5 actually is about playing like a winner. It's how do you get into the zone? How do you get into the right frame of mind so that, if you've got an interview to go to, a meeting, that you are at your peak just like you would in sport. So 6 is the team. 7 is about making it happen. You've got to go out there and take action to make it happen. And so there's some steps about what you can do, the actual action of it. And then step 8 is the identity piece, which is really about realizing that you're more than an athlete. We so identify with being an athlete, and I know what limited me was thinking that's all I am. I even limited myself by thinking I'm just an Olympian. I'm embarrassed to say, Dominic, that for many of my years I just didn't appreciate that I had achieved my goal. This thing that I'd chased my life, and then I didn't appreciate it, that I actually had achieved it, and I was an Olympian, and it's such a rare achievement, and it wasn't until I started appreciating that, but also realizing that I'm more than that. My identity is beyond that. It's part of me, but I can take that into, and that I am a business person. I am an entrepreneur. It's stepping into what identity do you need to be? Who do you need to be to achieve the success you want? So important. Identity. Kubler-Ross talk about an athlete kind of goes through the same process as somebody who's grieving over a loss, right? That you lose that sense of identity. Talk a little bit more about that, because I think that's a key piece in this whole process. You were an Olympic athlete, and now you're like everybody else. That's got to be hard. Yeah, and it's a big question. It's like, who am I now? I'm not. If you're part of a team, I'm not on that team. I'm not this. I think it's worse than the loss of direction of not knowing where you're going. It's just not knowing who am I, and in some ways you've got so many choices. You've got suddenly opportunities to do whatever it is you want, but that's also confusing, because it's like you want to make the right choice, and so it's just it's stepping back again and thinking, who do I want to be 5 years from now? Who do I want to be 10 years from now? What does that look like? And trying it on for size, and deciding that that's what you want to be. But the biggest thing is realizing that you are more than whatever you think you are, and allowing that to be.
Exactly, right. Great stuff, Annette. As a young person, you had a dream of making the Olympics and possibly obtaining an Olympic medal, gold, silver, or bronze. What's your Olympic medal in life now?
You know, funny is to say that I never allowed myself to think I could win a medal. You know, well, I thought, well, I'll get to the Olympics and I'll think about that. And so I realized I again had put that ceiling on it. You know, right now my medal in life, well, definitely, you know, the Olympics is a crowning achievement. It's more about the fact that I achieved what I set out to do, and did that with such a commitment and focus. And also then my other gold medal is my husband. You know, part of the process of my book was also getting clear on what I wanted in my life and what kind of a relationship I wanted and who I wanted to be in a relationship. And I finally found him, and he found me, and I found myself in that. I found who I wanted to be in a relationship. So I got married in 2011, and that's why I'm in Hawaii. And so we'll be celebrating our 5th year anniversary in January, and I'm very proud of that.
Oh, congratulations, Annette. A couple of more questions for you. We're just about out of time, but why do you think, well, maybe you don't think, but what is your thoughts around athletes and their transition? Does it get the recognition or the public, you know, attention it deserves, or do you think it's, you know, people are making a bigger deal out of it than it really is?
You know, and I've been watching this since I first came across my idea in 2009, and part of it frustrates me because I see, you know, last year or earlier this year there was a HBO special about it, you know, and a lot of the focus is on athletes going broke, you know, here in the U.S. and about their financial situation, and you know, there's reportage of athletes struggling, and then they say there needs to be a solution, and I'm frustrated because it's like there is a solution, but people aren't looking out for them, and they want to sort of focus on the problem rather than the solution. And there are solutions, and it's not just about finding a new career. That is part of it, but it really is about coping with it and finding yourself and being willing to talk about it and know that, you know, and for athletes that may be transitioning soon, to know that, you know, no matter how much you think you're prepared, you know, think you've got your career sorted out, there's a lot more to it. And to be able to talk to somebody about it, to know that you're not alone, that it's a natural progression, then the more people can talk about it, then it eases that progression.
Absolutely. Great stuff. Out of your 8 steps, what would you say? They're all very important, and I don't want to say that one's more important than the other, but if you were to take one of those steps out and say, you know, this is something you really need to hold on to or pay attention to, which step would you say that you want to pay close attention to?
It's the identity piece, absolutely. That's the crux of it, because you know, I think a lot of people focus on everything else, but it's that identity, and that's really what helped me to finally retire for the 3rd time, because my identity was completely aligned now to business and developing new dreams and goals that I couldn't even imagine playing the last tournament that someone asked me to play in Australia.
Right. Oh, great stuff. Identity is such a key piece in there. A couple more questions for you. When athletes are looking outside of themselves to find that next thing, or when they have struggles and whatnot, how would you respond to, or the question is, whose responsibility is it for somebody's greatness away from sport?
Whose responsibility is it to do something? It's got to lie with the individual. Am I taking the question right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The individual's got to take that responsibility, and then they've got to seek out other people to help them. But ultimately, and I guess, you know, and that's what creates an athlete. You know, the successful athletes take responsibility for their success. They're not blaming other people for their lack of success and not blaming the coach or whatever. They're saying, hey, it's up to me to succeed. And that goes with sport, and it goes without, on the other side of it. And I think sometimes, where I see the whole athlete transition, I see a lot of people come to me and ask, how do I get into that? And it's a tough field because there's not a lot of people buying into it, because the athletes are looking for the team to pay for it. I don't know if you see that, because
Sure.
especially in team sports and everything gets provided to them. And it's a transition in itself for athletes from that team environment to suddenly know that, hey, they've got to look after themselves. They've got to take care of their own time, money, and do something with it.
Yeah, that's where I was going. I kind of didn't get that question out very clearly to you, but you did really well with it. Just from my own experience, when I first retired, I was looking around for everybody else to try to make me happy and give me a job or, all that stuff. And it took me 20 years to figure out that my happiness comes from within, and it's my responsibility to make myself happy and those around me happy. And when that happened, life absolutely opened up for me, and all kinds of opportunities presented themselves.
Absolutely. And sometimes when you're in your low points, and I've gone through points of depression, you're sort of looking for help. You're looking for people to help you, to lift you up, but you've got to lift yourself up. When you lift yourself up, suddenly those people are there to carry you even higher. Right.
I love it. Okay, last couple questions. The 3 pieces of wisdom that you would share with somebody who's about to go into their transition, who is transitioning now or maybe struggling, and you provide us with so much right now, but if you took 3 pieces of wisdom that you would want to give somebody, what would they be?
One would be to have a notebook, a journal or something, to really start writing things down, writing whatever comes to mind. You can be writing your own thoughts, you could be, what's going on, but more importantly, thinking about and writing down an ideal life of what it is that you want. And it can be as vague or specific as you want. Sort of thinking, well, I want a bit of this, I want to be doing this or using these kind of skills, writing it down and start mapping out that future. And the clearer, it'll start to become clearer the more you write it down. So that would be 1, writing down. 2 would be, and I mentioned it before, being prepared to talk to people and asking for support and preparing ahead of time with that, and talking to other athletes that have been through the transition and hearing what that's like, to not sort of think, hey, I'm going to be fine, because invariably there are going to be challenges along the way, because you've got to know that there's it's suddenly a whole new ball game. You've got suddenly new responsibilities, and there's going to be a lot to deal with. So, starting to think about who do you want to have on that team.
Okay.
3 is get my book. How's that?
That's perfect. I love it. What do you see your role as a leader, and what would you like your legacy to be or leave for others? What do you see your role as a leader, and what is your legacy that you would like to leave for others?
I would like to be, and I feel like a bit of a pioneer in this field with athlete transition. There were bits and bobs along the way, and I've always thought there'll come a time when it really will start to become mainstream, and to be able to sit out to that point in time. And so to have that kind of legacy, to have an impact on that whole transition, that athletes find it easier to move on, that would be very fulfilling. And I guess that was, my purpose when writing the book, was not necessarily to leave a legacy, but to be able to share what a solution for this, because I know the challenges, and I guess I didn't go into the depths of it. I mentioned it briefly just before, the depression and that kind of thing, and going through some low points, battles with bulimia and that kind of thing, and to save other people that pain. I mean, a part of my theory is that people have to go through their own pain to go climb to higher levels. But if I can alleviate that pain and help them to move forward quicker and more easily, then that would be fulfilling.
Wonderful, wonderful. Would you do anything differently if you could? Is there anything that you would do over?
I don't know. You know, there's some areas where I think I could persist even more with. You know, persist in and various connections to be made to really get this program out there sooner than later. But it's also then knowing that things all happen and they're at the right time, as you were saying earlier on. So nothing really comes to mind. You know, everything happens for its reasons, and even the challenging times I look at, it's like there's something there for me to learn, and I'm who I am now because of those challenges.
Amazing stuff. Well, everybody, we certainly hope you've enjoyed our conversation with the amazing Annette Lynch. I know I have. You've been listening to the Championship Showcase, Secrets for Success, from the playing field of competition to the field of life. Annette, any last thoughts before we officially sign off?
Well, yeah, I think you've dragged everything out of me. And I really enjoyed this conversation, Dominic. It's made me think as well. I just want to emphasize is plan ahead of time. Don't wait until it's time to transition, and to know that it's not about thinking about plan B. It's not about sacrificing plan A. It's just knowing at any time that the sporting career is going to be over. It's inevitable, and to know how does this lead to the next step. For me, the Olympics was an end goal. And I didn't think of it being a stepping stone to something next. So to think as your sporting career as being a stepping stone, it's just part of your journey. It's not the end of the journey. Wonderful stuff. Her book is Success Beyond Sport, How to Retire from Sport and Keep Winning in Life, and that's exactly what you're doing, Annette. We want to thank you for joining us, and we encourage those of you who feel you might need some assistance through your career transition, please reach out, get the necessary help that you may need. You have purpose and you have value. For now, for Annette Lynch, this is Dominic Militello. We want to wish you all the best always, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.